"Will you marry me? I have money." A hot, fit woman asking for my hand in marriage was holding a tight roll of American currency in her hand. Girls offering me money and proposing marriage isn't something I encounter often. This begs the big question. Why? Was her request to marry me in wedded bliss sparked by my stunning looks? It's hardly accurate to say I was tall and fit, standing at just over 5'6", but at best my appearance could be described as average or ordinary. I had the most forgettable face, one of thousands of nameless, ordinary people you'd never notice in a crowd.
Welcome to the Dark Side channel. Dive into the world of human relationships, mistakes, and right decisions. Don't miss out. Subscribe and join our growing community.
Mr. Average. In height, weight, hair color, and so on. I'd make a great spy, able to slip in and out without anyone realizing I was there. Then it must have been my stunning sports car that caught her attention. Nope, a 4-year-old diesel Volkswagen Jetta is hardly a babe magnet. Perhaps it was my living situation. A huge mansion by the sea with a yacht? Guess again. I lived in the same old house where my grandparents raised me, and which they left me after their passing. The house was a nice place in a solid middle-class neighborhood, but it had nothing to catch the eye of such a lovely lady. Surely it was my jet-setting lifestyle combined with immense wealth that was the draw, right? Wrong. Being a 27-year-old charity organizer, I made about as much as a McDonald's manager. As someone at the bottom of the totem pole, I dealt not with glamorous galas, but with fun runs and cold calls. She must have been dazzled by my brilliant gift of gab, the kind of talk that makes girls' panties drop like snowflakes. A true player? Yeah, I wish. A virgin until 18, it took a lot of booze and coaxing for the school slut, who was an ugly coyote, to give it up to me the first time. For those of you with your brains twisted up, I'm not hung like John Holmes. In that department, I'm also pretty average. Not that this woman begging me has ever seen my gear. Usually ladies of this caliber don't even notice me. They might talk to me to ask for directions, or if they need someone to carry their bags on a good day. So what could I possibly have that would attract this Maxim poster babe? Well, I belong to an organization exclusive to a few million people. My ancestors managed not to get crushed, eaten, drowned, starved, stranded, bogged down, prematurely injured, and managed to deliver a tiny charge of genetic material to the right partner at the right moment in time and place. I was a member of the Lucky Donors Club. Yes, I held a passport. I was a bona fide American citizen, born in the USA. A big bonus was that I was also a single unmarried male. Now, I'm not bragging. I had nothing to do with it, except for the part about being an unmarried straight guy. In most parts of the world, American citizenship means nothing, just like having brown hair. In other parts of the world, being an American is a bad thing. But right now, in this place, for some people, especially for the woman in front of me, being a single American male was currency and barter for trade. The woman in question was named Pia. She was a classic Asian beauty. Just over 4 inches tall, Pia had long, straight hair, high cheekbones, and features that, combined with a dazzling smile, lit up the room. Along with a body to die for, Pia was slender and managed to pull off wearing jumpsuits. I felt something every time I saw her. "Ron, listen to me." Pia's voice floated through my thoughts as she held out the money. "Pia," I tried not to laugh. "I can't marry you. We barely know each other." "You've known me long enough, Ron," Pia said stubbornly. "You want more money? I'll get more. I'll ask Mr. Wilson's grown-up kids for a bigger severance to leave." Pia had been Mr. Wilson's caregiver, my next-door neighbor, for the last few years until his death last month. Pia was a home health worker, nurse, cook, maid, assistant, and companion. Mr. Wilson had been my football coach when I was a kid. I knew Pia pretty well, as she called on me whenever she had some job or home repair she couldn't handle. A typical act of a good neighbor. However, marriage was a bit beyond neighborly. "Pia," I shook my head, "you're just a treasure, and I'm very flattered. What possible reason could you have to marry me?" "American Immigration and Naturalization Service." Pia spat something out in her native language. I don't think it was a compliment to that government agency. "Immigration Service gave me 90 days to go home. Said my visa is no longer valid." Mr. Wilson's kids are not helping, they want to sell the house. Mr. Wilson's kids give me money, I give you. You marry me, Ron. It's not about the money. You can't marry someone you don't love. Believe me, there's someone out there who will love you. With your looks, you can get any guy. Pia waved her hand dismissively. Ron, I don't have time for love. I need a good man, and you're a good man. Do you want to spend the rest of your life with someone you don't love? I asked. Pia gave me a strange look. Why do you say the rest of your life? I talked to an immigration lawyer. He said we only need to stay married for 2 years. Then I'll leave to marry a better man than you, who is waiting for me back home. I had to laugh at that. Pia, you're just brilliant. How can I turn down an offer that lets me know I'm not only second choice, but also losing to some guy I've never met? Why not just go home to Mr. Wonderful now and live happily ever after? Pia stomped her foot. Why are you so stubborn? I need to stay in America, earn money for my mother and sister. I send all the money home, pay for my sister's school, and my mother needs medicine. She's still alive. Do you want more money? I'm trying to get more. My mother will die. I don't send money home. My sister will end up on the streets. Great, I thought. Now I'm killing her mother and making her family homeless. Pia, I tried to reason with her. I told you it's not about the money. If I marry you the way you want, it's called fraud, and we'll both end up in jail. How will you help your mom and sister if you're in an American prison and then get deported? She was relentless. If the immigration service sends me home, I still won't be able to help my mom and sister. Who cares if we get married? Everything will be fine. I see your house. You need a good woman. I'm a good woman. I cook well. I'll take care of you. You won't regret it. Pia, I began, you're crazy. She looked desperate, and to be honest, I wouldn't mind eating something that wasn't microwaved. Plus, Pia was easy on the eyes. I tried to brush her off, thinking this conversation was leading nowhere. Let me think about it. We'll talk about it later. I figured Pia would forget about this ridiculous idea, or I'd just avoid her. Pia surprised me by shoving a stack of bills into my hand. You need to think quickly. Mr. Wilson's kids want me out by the weekend. I tossed the roll of money back to Pia. Listen, Pia, I'm not taking your money. I turned and walked back to my house. I didn't need Pia's money. Few people knew this, but I was a trust fund kid. No, not from a multi-millionaire's trust fund. My grandfather had developed a key ingredient for a popular regional soft drink many years ago. The trust fund received a small percentage of the sales according to some complicated formula every year. Every March, I received a check. It wasn't enough to travel the world and gamble in Monte Carlo, but it was more than enough to supplement the income from any job I wanted. The trust fund money gave me time to do what I wanted. I learned to fly, studied several martial arts, learned to paint, repair homes, provide first aid, and dabbled in music. I regularly donated to several charitable and community organizations, all anonymously. When I was 17, my grandfather taught me a valuable lesson. I had just received my first trust fund check. Naturally, it was the down payment on a new expensive car, parties with girls, and drinking. By the 3rd month of my drunken sailor spending, my grandfather froze my bank account and took my car away. It was a sobering experience, watching my friends disappear like snowflakes on a warm sidewalk. I never told anyone about my trust fund after that and lived within my means. I was struck by human nature, especially women's. Girls would swoon over some guy with a fancy car that he didn't pay for, and credit cards, while I couldn't get service from a cute bank teller until she saw my 6-figure account balance. I had yet to meet a girl who valued substance over appearance. Because of my lifestyle, I was dumped by several girlfriends. It was not uncommon to be told after a few dates, "Ron, you're a nice guy, but you have such an ordinary loser job. You're going nowhere, and I deserve better." My intimate life was fine. I never had to pay for it, yet. But while I was searching for Miss Right, they were all looking for Mr. Right Now, or the guy who could, as a popular movie put it, show me the money. One-night stands were fun, but had become tiresome. It seemed impossible to find anyone of the opposite sex who wasn't superficial. The next morning, Pia showed up on my doorstep with several suitcases and boxes. I watched in surprise as Pia moved her belongings into my living room. "Ron, Pia said between trips from the porch to the living room. "I'm staying here while you think. You'll see that life is much better with me as your wife." "Damn it, Pia," I began, glancing at my watch. I was running late for an important meeting. "You can't stay here. Don't do anything until I get back this evening." "Yes, Ron. Yes," Pia responded, ignoring me. "You go to work. We talk when you come back. Go now." She practically pushed me out the door. That evening, I came home with a prepared speech. I needed to be firm but gentle. Pia could stay for a few days, but no marriage. I would ask the lawyers who managed my trust fund if they could look into helping Pia with her visa, but that was it. When I walked in, something was different. It took me a few seconds, but I noticed it. The house was immaculately clean. I'm not a slob, but this was the cleanest the house had been since my grandmother passed away. Also, a wonderful smell was coming from the kitchen. Pia magically appeared with a wooden spoon in hand. "Good, you're home." Pia approached and kissed my stunned face. "I couldn't find a rice cooker in the kitchen. I took Mr. Wilson's rice cooker. He died. He doesn't need a rice cooker. Where's your rice cooker?" Pia waved the spoon at me. I managed to look even more bewildered. "I don't have a rice cooker. There should be some instant rice from Uncle Ben's in the cupboard. Just boil water and toss the rice packet in for 2 minutes. Bingo, you have rice." Pia looked shocked. "Ron, that's not rice. You need a rice cooker." Pia waved the spoon. "You go get ready. Dinner will be on the table. Hurry, the food will get cold." It smelled good. There was no reason my speech couldn't wait until after dinner. In the bedroom, I was met with another surprise. I opened a drawer and my socks were neatly folded and lined up. Something felt off. I grabbed a pair of socks and underwear. Dessert was exceptional, a fruit cocktail I'd never seen before. Pia kept asking me about my day, and I realized I enjoyed talking with her. Pia seemed to understand the people I worked with and offered ideas I'd never thought of regarding clients and problems I described. Pia even shared a few funny stories that lightened the mood at the table. Well, now seemed like the right time. I could get this over with and start my speech, but Pia interrupted me. "Ron will have time to talk later. Now go for a walk outside. Don't get fat. It's good for your health." "Right, Pia," I said. "Let's go enjoy this lovely evening." "You go," Pia insisted. "I'll clean the kitchen first." I enjoyed a walk around the block. Pia joined me, and we chatted pleasantly. It felt nice. I didn't want to ruin the mood. Deciding to clarify things with Pia in the morning, we headed back to my house. Later that night, I got into bed. Pia was in the hall bathroom, singing. She had a melodious voice with almost perfect pitch. I figured Pia would sleep in one of the 3 spare bedrooms. I'd been sleeping naked for years and reminded myself to wear a robe when leaving the bedroom for any reason. I was nearly asleep when I felt a warm body lift the blanket and slide into bed next to me. Pia snuggled up against me, her whole body pressed against mine. Since I'm a guy, you can guess my initial reaction to a curvy woman's body wriggling against my quickly awakening parts. "Pia," I began, trying to turn away and hide my erection. "There are 3 other bedrooms. I can move if you want to sleep here." "Silly Ron," Pia said. "None of the other beds have what this one does." With that, Pia dove under the blanket, fulfilling a fantasy I'd had since the day I first saw her. Only Pia in real life was so much better than any of my fantasies. This wasn't a quick thank you for dinner and a date affair, like I was used to with other women. She never let me please her, but I slept soundly with the biggest smile on my face. The next morning, I was able to cross one item off my bucket list. The morning got even better. No cold cereal for me. Pia was peeling fresh fruit while baking some kind of pastry. I never got to deliver my speech to Pia. I barely made it to work on time. I held out for 4 days before Pia and I got married at a civil ceremony in the courthouse. Was it my little head talking to my big head, telling it what to do? Damn right no, it was my little head, my gut, and all the other parts of my body, with clean clothes and great food, telling my head what to do. Before you think I bled all my brains out, I reached out to a law firm recommended by the trust to draw up a prenuptial agreement. It was over 100 pages long and detailed who, when, and what would be received in case of a breakup. We didn't talk about a 2-year agreement. I had to push Pia to get a lawyer to review the document for her. "Ron, why are we spending money on a lawyer?" Pia would ask. "You're a good person. You won't deceive me." Plus, I really enjoyed being with Pia. I learned that she grew up in a fishing port on the outskirts of town. Her father once disappeared at sea, leaving her mother, Pia, and her little sister behind. Her mother was determined to succeed for her daughters. School and grades were their religion. At the age of 11, her mother took Pia to a loan shark. The loan shark agreed to advance money for school, at rates that would make a mafia loan shark blush. Pia had to repay the loan after finishing school and getting a job. If Pia failed her studies, she would have to repay the money by working in a brothel, also owned by the loan shark. If Pia missed the repayment deadline, Pia's younger sister would be taken to the brothel as payment. In her country, Pia obtained a nursing diploma and went to America. Unfortunately, Pia failed to pass the nursing certification exam. Certification as a nurse from another country and the approval process were expensive. Pia sent every penny home to pay off the loan, sent her sister to school, and pay for the medicine needed for her mother's illness. Her boyfriend, Mr. Wonderful, was a young man she had known since childhood. Pia's eyes lit up every time she talked about Mr. Wonderful. "He works on a fishing boat," Pia boasted when I foolishly asked about him. "He'll have his own fishing boat, and then many boats. We'll have lots of children, lots of boys, and a big house near the market." "Sounds like a real gem," I said sarcastically. I wondered how I could be jealous of a guy I'd never seen. "Oh, he's the best man," Pia continued, not missing a beat. "We're waiting for each other, gave each other a promise." That promise was the only thing I could complain about. Pia had the most talented mouth. She never got tired of going down on me. I rarely had to ask. Pia seemed to read my thoughts and mood. We kissed like teenagers, but like a boxer, Pia couldn't go below the belt. My countless attempts were rejected by Pia. She was never angry or upset, but she was very firm on this issue. "Ron, my flower doesn't belong to you," Pia would say after my attempts to reach it. "I make you happy in other ways." That was true. In all other respects, I lived in a beer commercial and Pia was the dream wife, at least for a while. But that's human nature, to desire what we see but can't have. Pia was hard-working and entrepreneurial. Grass didn't grow under her feet. When she wasn't working as a housekeeper, Pia did anything to earn money, selling pseudo-Mary Kay cosmetics, Tupperware parties, selling jewelry and currency exchange. If there was money to be made, Pia did it. Pia also bargained better than any Turkish horse trader. The only money Pia took from me was the funds I gave her for food. Pia drove her little car to the farmer's or fish market, no grocery stores with high prices and junk for us. Upon return, Pia's car was packed with fresh produce. Pia always brought back trinkets from her shopping trips. I don't think she slept more than 4 hours a night. I never saw her buy anything new for herself. But Pia scoured flea markets and thrift stores, coming up with outfits that made her even more beautiful, if that was possible. We joked that I never saw Pia looking bad or without makeup. Every morning, Pia got up before me, did her makeup and hair. Several times I even set the alarm for an odd hour, trying to catch Pia with bed hair or sleepy eyes. It never happened. And yet, Pia was full of surprises. One day, after another morning that earned praise and another failed attempt to reciprocate pleasure, I just had to ask. "Pia," I began, lying on the bed with a wide smile on my face. "How did you get so good at this?" I tapped my finger to her lips. "You and Mr. Wonderful back home, or American boyfriends?" Pia cuddled up to me. "No, never," Pia replied. "I'm a good girl. I never kissed a man until I came to America or did this." Pia stroked me. "I don't have boyfriends. Mr. Wilson showed me how it's done." I sat up straight in bed. "Mr. Wilson," I stammered. "Our late neighbor, damn. You've been watching after that old bastard in his dying days, and this is how he repays you." I was furious. How could my old football coach take advantage of a young, respectable girl like that? What a bastard. Thank goodness he was dead. Otherwise, I would have killed him. "Pia, did that old bastard make you do this?" Pia looked at me in confusion. "Why are you angry?" Pia stroked my stomach. "Mr. Wilson didn't make me do anything. I enjoyed giving him pleasure. I did it to avoid Mr. Wilson's beatings. Pia, what the hell are you talking about? Now I was bewildered. Are you listening? Pia continued rubbing me. Mr. Wilson sometimes got sick, but he was still a man. After his wife died, he was lonely and needy. Mr. Wilson would go out and find bad women on the streets and in newspapers. Not often, but sometimes. Then, twice, Mr. Wilson got beaten up by different bad ladies and he lost all the money in his wallet. Pia shifted the blankets on the bed. I didn't want Mr. Wilson to suffer, but I knew he was still a man, Pia said. I watched videos, saw how to give pleasure. Mr. Wilson fought me the first time, made me stop. He kicked me out of the room, said he'd fire me if I tried again. I knew it was a lie. I caught Mr. Wilson when he was asleep in bed. He was happy. I finished before he woke up. Mr. Wilson was still angry, scolded me, but he didn't fight anymore. I asked what he wanted, and we argued for a long time, but he didn't say anything more. But in the end, Mr. Wilson remained a man, and I got pleasure and protected him from all the bad women and beatings. Good Lord, Pia, I said, rubbing my chin. I hope that wasn't in your initial job description. Then a thought occurred to me. You don't provide security for other men while working as a housekeeper or in other jobs? Pia furrowed her brow in surprise. I'm not a prostitute. I'm a wife, and I only provide pleasure to you as long as I'm a wife. I don't do anything for anyone else except my husband. Pia was so focused that her face looked simply wonderful, and I started laughing despite myself. Maybe Wilson was an old goat after all, but I knew I wouldn't last long against determined Pia either way. Perhaps it was a sham marriage, but for Pia's sake, I tried to maintain the appearance. Pia was well connected within various Asian communities. Every weekend there was a wedding, baptism, anniversary, birthday, or another party. Pia elevated networking to a high art form. It seemed she knew everyone and everything that was happening. But what I liked was something else. The people and their attitude towards life. They didn't live to work, they worked to live. I mean, they worked a lot. Undoubtedly, most of them had more than one job. However, their priority was family and friends, not career advancement or corporate rat races. I had more fun with Pia at a backyard party than at some fancy gala event. Nobody cared about your jewelry or the car you arrived in. They were just glad you showed up. I'd miss that when Pia and I went our separate ways. Our 2-year agreement was coming to an end. There were less than 2 months left, and I quietly asked my lawyers to prepare divorce papers. Despite the fact that the prenuptial agreement gave Pia nothing, I included a substantial sum for her. She would only find out after we parted ways. Pia was a proud lady, contributing half the household expenses. Pia wouldn't let me return the money to her. At first, I tried to sneak the money back into Pia's purse. However, Pia always knew down to the cent how much money she had, so that didn't work. I resorted to lying that the household expenses were minimal, but Pia found utility bills and insisted on paying her share. Eventually, I took the money Pia gave me and put it into an account to return to her after the divorce. I also did things like filling up her car with 5 gallons of gas that I kept in the garage. Pia never noticed that her car had better mileage than a fully electric hybrid. I also managed to convince Pia that I had a friend who owed me a favor, so I was able to put new tires on her car and quietly upgraded her car from the gas tank to the gearbox. The only thing that bothered Pia was that every couple of weeks I'd come home with gift cards that accidentally remained after a charity event. Yes, it was a little white lie, but I was truly starting to love Pia and was willing to do anything to see her smile. Pia had a temporary green card, which gave her status as a foreign resident. For the past few days, Pia had been dressing better than usual, cooking my favorite dishes, and even increasing our bedroom activities. Ron, Pia began over dinner, sitting across from me at the table. I need one more favor from you. Okay, Pia, I replied. Tell me what you need. I need to bring my mother and sister to America, Pia said hurriedly. The lawyer told me that my money isn't enough to, as you say, sponsor my mother and sister. We filed income tax separately as spouses living apart. Most of Pia's work and income were in cash. Pia would quickly give dollars to any friend for her daughter's dress at church or a wedding banquet, or any other request. But Pia hated giving money to some government machine she didn't know and didn't trust. Pia, I chuckled at her. I told you that unreported income would come back to bite you in your cute behind someday. What do you want me to do about it? Why should I give money to thieving politicians? Pia held the same opinion about government officials that people all over the world held. They say I need money from your job to sponsor my mother and sister. If we're going to divorce in a few weeks, then my declared income from work won't benefit you at that point. Ron, Pia looked down, nervously picking at her food. We have to stay married until my mother and sister come to America. Now that's a twist, Pia. I was a little taken aback. What time frame are we talking about? Not long, Ron. Pia brightened, seeing that I didn't brush her off. The lawyer says it might take 1.5 years, maximum 2 years. She smiled hopefully at me. I pretended to consider her request. There's a lot to think about here. What does your fisherman boyfriend, Mr. Wonderful, think about this delay? Pia waved her hand dismissively. It's family. Family comes first. He understands. He's waiting for me. For me, the choice was clear. Go back to microwave dinners and doing my own laundry, chasing indifferent women on one side, or stick around a bit longer in the fantasies with Pia on the other. I sighed dramatically. All right, Pia. I guess we can tolerate each other a bit longer. Pia's face lit up with a classic smile that brightened the room, and she returned to her meal. Barely breathing, I heard Pia say, "Thank you, Ron." About 6 months after that conversation, our relationship had soured significantly. I was at a local sports bar where a fundraiser was being held. My ex-college team was playing and they were having a winning season. In the past, my old school wasn't known for its sports program. It had been a decade of recovery. The sports bar manager and assistant manager were ladies who had attended the opposing team's school. There were bets placed on drinks and patrons were taking sides. Drinks and money were being bet on every aspect of the competition to be donated to charity. I'm not a big drinker. Beer or a glass of wine with dinner was my limit. After a few shots, I remember kissing one of the girls after an exciting game on TV, but that was it until I woke up in my bed with a hangover. Ron, wake up. Pia shook me. Her words seemed to ring in my head like little hammers. Damn it, Pia! I tried to cover my head with a pillow. I'm a walking dead. Can't you leave me alone? We're going, Ron. Go get your car. I have a lot to do today. Pia removed the pillow from my head. She handed me a glass of water and aspirin. Pia didn't look happy. After stumbling out of the shower, Pia drove me to the sports bar to pick up my car. Pia was unusually quiet. Finally, halfway there, Pia spoke up. Ron, why do you behave poorly with those bad girls? Pia started. I'm losing face. I come for you. Find you drunk with those bad girls, tangled up like 2 snakes in mating season. I wasn't in the mood to talk. Leave it. It's part of my job. Being at such events, you know that. This isn't part of the job. Putting your wife in a bad light. Losing face. Spat out Pia. You're talking about losing face, I retorted. What about you getting all fired up, and then for days you're running on air after getting a letter from Mr. Wonderful Fisherman? How do you think I feel about that? I know you keep all his letters in the drawer and reread them. Is that how a wife behaves? Ron, it's different, Pia replied, but toned it down a bit. I make sure you're never around when I read those letters. I never let you lose face. I'm your wife. What you did isn't the same. I'm not happy. If you're not happy, you should think about another job. Try selling oranges on the highway. My head still hurt. Besides, you're my wife in name only. The rest of you belongs to Mr. Wonderful Fisherman at home. Pia stared straight ahead at the wheel. Ron, are you saying I don't make you happy? You always seem happy with what we do. We were in the sports bar, and I was searching for the car keys in my pocket. I wasn't in the best mood. Pia didn't respond when I slipped out of her car and slammed the door. The next day, the power went out in our office. They released us from work early and sent us home. As I approached the house, I was surprised to see Pia's car. I thought she had home care work today. Climbing the stairs to the bedroom, I heard sounds that made my heart sink. They were muffled but unmistakable sounds. The female sounds were ones Pia had never made for me, a deep male voice. So what if she saved her flower for Mr. Wonderful Fisher or someone else? Well, I guess we both had each other, though neither of us had another, I thought to myself. Pia even turned on music, and I felt uncomfortable. I stopped at the bedroom door. Did I want to go in? We were married in name only. I didn't know what angered me more. The way Pia teased me for the past 2 years, or her lofty speech yesterday in the car about losing face and saving herself. What nonsense! I decided not to burst in and confront Pia. I went for the camera, checked the film and flash, and then swung open the bedroom door. I would send a beautiful portrait of Pia to her Mr. Wonderful Fisher. I was prepared to see Pia in bed. What I saw was even more shocking. Pia sat on the bed, fully clothed, with a notebook on her lap and a pen in her hand. There were interesting video contents playing on the TV. Pia held the VHS remote control next to her. Occasionally, she paused the cassette to write something down and even fast-forwarded to different moments. A stack of cassettes was piled on the bed beside her. Pia was sitting with her back to the door, so she didn't see me. After a moment, I quietly closed the door. Now I was truly puzzled. What the hell is Pia doing right now? I thought. Whatever it was, I'd better wait to find out. I went downstairs and exited through the front door. I didn't have to wait long to find out what Pia had in mind. When I returned later at my usual time, Pia greeted me at the door in a short nightgown and kissed me passionately. Life was going well. Every day, Pia rushed to the mailbox, hoping for news about her mother and sister's immigration request. As far as I knew, Pia was still writing and receiving letters from Mr. Wonderful Fisherman. It bothered me, but I figured he only received physical letters from Pia every few weeks. Meanwhile, Pia was in real life every day. For now. Overall, I considered that I had the better end of the deal at that moment. About 18 months later, a letter arrived from the Immigration Service. Pia's mother and sister had received permission to move to the United States. About time, I thought to myself. The Immigration Service required a blizzard of paperwork, even more than when Pia and I got married. There was always another form, document, or record to submit, file, or fill out, and of course, always in triplicate. The treaty that ended World War II fit on one sheet of paper. Why did the government think it necessary to cut down trees in Washington state, demanding mountains of paper? After reading the Immigration and Naturalization Service message, for a split second I thought about destroying the letter, but just as quickly dismissed the idea. Pia had always been honest about everything and had done everything possible to fulfill her part of the agreement. Besides, it would only delay the inevitable. We had worked well together. But damn, how I would miss Pia. I decided tonight I would give her the correspondence. Unfortunately, tonight I had an unpleasant task to attend to, caring for one of our benefactors. This client was a classic spoiled rich kid. Expelled from several universities, he failed in all responsible positions in his father's companies. This person was entrusted with overseeing his father's charitable contributions, a position where he couldn't damage the old family business. Our city had many world-class historical landmarks, fine restaurants, and other delights. Yet this spoiled brat wanted to go to strip clubs. I never understood the appeal of strip clubs. What's the allure of being teased by crowds of attractive women you'll never have? It was like going to a restaurant, ordering food but not eating. What's the point? However, he was a client, and I found myself sitting in a separate booth with some blonde named Bambi, Lexus, or Bunny for the past 3 hours. He was drinking heavily, while I stuck to ginger ale. "What are you guys up to?" Bambi/Bunny/Lexus said, flipping her top while looking at the rich dude's face. "Oh baby, working these beauties," he said. "We're philanthropists." Seeing her confused expression, he added, "You know, helping out poor folks, less fortunate, making the world a better place." Laughing, he buried his face in her chest. "Are you talking about starving kids in Africa?" Bambi/Bunny/Lexus asked. She moved towards me as he stuffed dollars. "Something like that," I muttered, pushing her away and getting up. Bambi/Bunny/Lexus was already wriggling on his lap when she replied. He laughed and spilled his drink on me. I excused myself to clean up. Stepping out of the booth, I approached one of the tree trunk bouncers. "Hey man," I said, handing over a $1.50 bill. "Make sure me and my buddy get kicked out of here pronto." The bouncer eyed the money in my hand. "Sir, I don't have sufficient grounds to remove you gentlemen from the premises," he said. I added another $1.50 bill. I'd also expect a light tap on my buddy for this service, I requested as the bouncer pocketed the money. We were quickly thrown out and found ourselves lying in a heap in the alley behind the club after being tossed out like bums through the back door. I was dirty but unharmed. My companion laughed loudly. "Ron, damn it!" he exclaimed, getting up. "I haven't had this much fun since New Orleans. You're my kind of guy. How much money do you need for that show, buddy?" I chuckled and helped him up. "Come with me. I have papers in my car that you can sign right now." Entering the door, I found that Pia was waiting for me. When Pia kissed me on the cheek, I noticed her wrinkled nose. I smelled of booze and cheap cologne. "Ron, why do you smell like a brothel?" Pia said. "Pia, I had to take a client to some stupid strip joint. The dumbass spilled his drink on me." Pia looked at me suspiciously. "You're not hanging out with sleazy dames, are you?" "Of course not, Pia," I replied, starting to head for the stairs. I could tell Pia was doubtful. "Ron, if you're not going to hang out with sleazy dames, then we'll do it right now. You must let me give you pleasure," exclaimed Pia, pulling me onto the couch, and then starting to undo my belt and zipper. I pushed her hands away, laughing. "Wait, I have something for you," I said, reaching into my jacket pocket for the INS letter. Pia couldn't tear herself away from her attempts to undress me. "Ron, I see you staring at women with big boobs, like a cow's udder. Come on, let me see if you're telling the truth." "All right, Pia, you win. I guess you can wait to see the letter about your sister and mom from the immigration service later." I waved the letter in front of her face. Pia froze for a moment, then snatched the letter from my hands, jumped off the couch, scanning the immigration service letter. "Ron, these are good news. Mom and sister can come to America." Pia clapped her hands. "I'll call Mom right away. We need to get ready." The phone call to Pia's mom took several hours. Operators, country codes, city codes, international lines, and waiting. It was a more complicated operation than launching a space shuttle. I was still sitting on the couch, my pants halfway down. "Hey, Pia," I called out. "What about our pleasure? What about your insatiable desire for me?" Pia paid no attention to it and dashed up the stairs. "Ron, you big strong stallion. You'll be happy and cheat on me anyway. I've got a lot on my plate right now. We'll have fun later today." With that, Pia disappeared into our bedroom. It was nice to see Pia so happy. Trying not to laugh, I pulled up my pants and got off the couch. While Pia was busy with logistics and filling out countless forms and documents for the final steps to bring her mother and sister to America, I asked my lawyer to start the paperwork for our divorce. I wondered if Pia was checking out apartments all over town to move into after our divorce. I didn't know how much time she had left before she would leave, and I didn't bother to ask. In the days leading up to her mother and sister's arrival, Pia was like a whirlwind. I don't think she slept at all. The house was scrubbed from top to bottom. It was cleaner than a surgical room. Pia cooked up a storm of their favorite dishes. I teased Pia that if more than one of her mothers or sisters arrived, it would be because of the amount of food packed into our fridge. Finally, the day arrived and we met Pia's mother and sister at the airport. I had seen their photos, but in real life, they were quite different. Pia's mother was like a more mature version of Pia. Mom spoke English fairly well and was quiet but firm. Pia's sister had an unpronounceable name and asked to be called Lucy. Undoubtedly, Pia and Lucy were related, but if Pia was beautiful, Lucy was taller, like a larger version of an Asian doll that took your breath away. Lucy had a presence that made men stop and stare as she walked by. I was most surprised when Lucy spoke for the first time. "Hi, Ron. Nice to meet you," Lucy said, with a slight West Texas accent. It seemed like Lucy and her friends had grown up watching bootleg VHS tapes of old American TV shows. Lucy loved Dallas and Dynasty the most. She and her friends spent hours in front of the mirror and with each other after every episode, practicing to speak like the characters in those shows. Lucy had watched all the seasons and knew every actor. She studied their speech with monk-like devotion. The voice of Alexis Carrington from Dynasty coming from Lucy's lips stunned me to the point of speechlessness. Lucy looked at me, slight panic in her eyes. "Ron, honey, are you okay? Did I say something wrong? No. Lucy, I stuttered. You sounded just fine, it's me. Forget it, I'm also very glad to meet you. I was lucky that Pia intervened and saved me. Ron, shut up. You're catching flies. Put the luggage in the car. We're going home. As I packed their things into the car, Pia, Lucy, and her mother chattered away in their native language. Mother and Lucy quickly settled in. Then I got a second pleasant surprise. Mom took over cooking. Mom was a wonderful cook. I swear this old lady could make a brick taste as good as a filet mignon. Mom's cleaning put Pia to shame. I can't express how shocked I was when I once saw my old sneakers polished and looking as good as the day I bought them. I dreaded the day I would have to go back to life without Pia. 2 weeks later, we were all enjoying another one of Mom's outstanding dinners together. However, the atmosphere was tense. I thought they were waiting for me to tell them about the move. I decided to bring up the subject openly so we could address it. Pia, Lucy, Mom, I began. I know you have something to tell me, so just go ahead. I turned to Pia. Pia, we both knew this day would come. I have divorce papers at the lawyer's office. Just give me a date and I'll file them. You don't have to put off your life anymore. Pia, you can go back home to Mr. Wonderful, your fisherman, whenever you want. At the mention of divorce and fisherman, I saw Lucy and her mother exchange glances and purse their lips. There was a brief exchange in their native language between them before Pia finally spoke to me. Ron, Pia began, I need another favor from you. Pia's sister Lucy interrupted. Pia, please let me. Listen, Ron, honey, I need a favor, not Pia. Lucy laid down her napkin. You see, Ron, I need to live in this place for 6 months to take the exams for my diploma. Think about it. Maybe you'll agree to put up with little old me for that long. That brought me back. I looked at Pia. Pia, what about you? Do you want this? Do you want me to hold off on filing for divorce? Pia looked at her mother and sister before answering. Ron, we are family. Family sticks together. A week later, Lucy asked me to teach her how to drive. Imagine, being in a car with a stunning Asian girl obeying my every command. Yeah, I could do that. By the second day, I was looking for driving schools. You know the stereotype about Asian women being bad drivers? Well, that stereotype exists for a reason. From the way Lucy drove, I figured the best drivers in the world must be from Lucy's homeland, because all the bad drivers are dead. Unfortunately, Lucy would swerve across 3 lanes to get to McDonald's. I swear, McDonald's stock rose after Lucy drove into the country. The joy of watching Lucy surpassed the horror of Lucy's driving. After a few weeks, I could hold on to the door handle with only one hand. After the second month, I could breathe normally when Lucy merged onto the highway. I admit the lessons lasted longer than they should have, but I discovered that Lucy had not only beauty, but brains too. Like Pia, Lucy was an environmental advocate and knew how to not only listen, but also articulate her point. Once during our conversations behind the wheel, Lucy really caught me off guard. Ron, Lucy said, looking straight ahead, I have to tell you, my sister Pia is as dumb as a horse's ass. Wow, Lucy, I joked. Can't talk about my future ex-wife like that. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Ron, honey, Lucy continued. I can't believe Pia is giving up on marriage with you for that guy from home. Lucy, I said, with more emotion than I felt. Pia and I had an understanding. It was beneficial for both of us. Oh, bull crap, Ron, Lucy retorted. You love Pia, and Mom and I see it. I think Pia loves you too, but doesn't know it. I told Sis that the day she throws you back into the pond, I'll snatch you up and never let you go. With those words, Lucy removed one hand from the wheel and trailed a finger down my thigh, edging toward my crotch. Both hands on the wheel, Lucy, I barked. Lucy withdrew her hand from me and returned both hands to 2 and 10. I adjusted my seatbelt. After a few moments of silence, Lucy spoke up. Sorry, Ron, I didn't mean to grab you. I've never been with a guy and wasn't sure how to act. Mom kept me on a tight leash. I just want everyone to know how things stand. I relaxed before saying, Don't worry, Lucy, no harm done. Tell me, how did Pia react to your claim to ownership? I don't think it bothers her. After all, she's got Mr. Wonderful Fisherman back home. Lucy looked visibly relieved. Ron, honey, my sister Pia was furious when I told her I was going after you. Pia acted like I was about to steal her virginity. We had a big fight, and even Mom intervened. I was a bit puzzled why Pia cared so much. I'm surprised she's not indifferent about it. Pia pined for her fisherman back home like a starving man craves food. Lucy clenched her jaw. "If I tell you something, you have to promise not to tell Pia," she said. "I can't do that, Lucy. Your sister Pia is still my wife. I can't keep secrets from her." Lucy clenched her jaw again. "Darn it, Ron, then I can't tell you everything." We drove in silence for a while. Eventually, my curiosity got the better of me. "Fine, I promise not to tell Pia. Now spill it," I said. Lucy pulled the car into a parking lot and obediently reversed, just as I had taught her. "Ron, my sister Pia's guy back home, the fisherman, he came back home." "The fisherman guy? He already has 2 kids from 2 different women. They don't even know about each other. He's a damn sailor with a girl in every port." I couldn't help but laugh. "Wow, Lucy, that's some news. But you need to tell your sister. It's not fair to her." Lucy turned off the car. "No one knows anything about it, not even Mom. Plus, what's even worse, the guy Pia wants to spend the rest of her life with. He doesn't mind spending a long night away from home on a boat full of guys. He's very popular among other fishermen." I slapped the dashboard with both hands. "Lucy, are you saying he's gay? Playing for both teams? That's just too much." I paused and thought for a moment. "Lucy, you need to tell Pia. You can't keep this from her. Is this just gossip or do you have evidence?" Lucy paused before responding. "I was doing my internship at the hospital when he brought a girl with a baby. The child looked like him. He gave his name as the father. A month later, I was in another hospital. The same thing, but a different girl and baby. I asked around. The girls live with their parents, and when he's not on the fishing boat, he lives in one house or another." Lucy turned away from me. "About the guy. He's not gay, he's just... Guys will be guys and use what they can. There are no women on the fishing boat. He seems okay with it. There are guys like him on every ship. It's common knowledge." Lucy shrugged. "Lucy," I looked directly at her. "You have to tell your sister Pia." "No, Ron. Pia won't believe me. She's very stubborn. She still sees him as her high school sweetheart. It was a long time ago." Lucy stopped. She seemed to be thinking. After a while, Lucy spoke again. "Ron, I've changed my mind. You can tell Pia if you want." Lucy started the car and began driving home. I was deep in thought. Should I tell Pia? Would she believe me? And if she did, what would it mean? A light bulb went off in my head. Finally, I admitted to myself that I loved Pia, but I needed her to love me back. If I told Pia about Mr. Wonderful the fisherman, she might stay with me, but only because I was her backup plan. I knew it sounded selfish, but I needed to be her #1 priority if we were to be together. On the other hand, Lucy and I had grown quite close, and Lucy confessed to having feelings for me. Maybe I should let Pia go. Or was this just a case of the grass always being greener on the other side? The ride home was long, and Lucy and I didn't talk. In the end, I came up with a plan that seemed foolproof to me. I wouldn't tell Pia what I knew about her Mr. Wonderful fisherman. This would give Pia more time before we parted ways. If it was true that Pia loved me, I wanted to hear it from her. That way, I'd know she chose me, not the wonderful mister. If Pia still wanted a divorce, I'd let her go and bet on her sister Lucy. I'd tell Pia about Mr. Wonderful after we split up. Then Pia could decide for herself what to do, but I wouldn't be around, and she wouldn't be able to come back to me. For the first time in a long while, I felt calm as we pulled into the driveway. I don't recall the house being this happy since my grandparents passed away. Lucy was studying and spending a lot of time with me. Mom kept the house in a condition that would please a Marine Corps sergeant, and the food made me fight not to gain weight. Pia and I continued to grow closer. I caught her glances when she thought I wasn't looking, but I couldn't figure out what she was thinking. Was she preparing for the move? Was she thinking about her future life at home? Our bedroom relationship continued, but it didn't give me any clues. Dinners were a wonderful time, enjoying lively conversations with the 3 ladies. Parties and weekend events were doubly fun with Pia, Lucy, and their mom. There was little I could do, so I waited for Pia's sister Lucy to finish her test and asked my lawyer to prepare the divorce papers. It all depended on Pia's next move. On the day of Lucy's big test, Pia was home. Mom had gone shopping, and I was working in my office downstairs. Pia came into the office and asked me to come to the bedroom. I thought I saw tears in her eyes. This must be it, I thought. The big kiss-off. I figured Pia had waited until we were alone so I could save face. When I entered the bedroom, Pia was sitting on the bed. She was still beautiful but looked tired. There was an envelope addressed to Mr. Wonderful, the fisherman, lying on the bed beside her. It was odd because Pia always made sure I didn't see her reading or writing these letters. I sometimes received mail, so these letters weren't a secret. I even knew which drawer Pia kept her letters in. It was an open secret. Pia would tell me what was in the letter or what she had written if I asked. Now, looking back, I realized that I truly started to have real feelings for Pia for the first time when I stopped asking what was in the letters. "Ron," Pia began, taking a deep breath. "I told him." Pia pointed to the letter on her bed. "I don't want to be his wife. I wish him luck and success in his future, and I'm throwing away all the old letters. I'm your wife if you want me." "Why now, Pia?" I asked. "What's changed?" "Nothing has changed. You changed me. You make me love you." Pia embraced me tightly. "Ron, I always knew you were a good man. Mom told me I was a fool to let you go. Then Lucy told me she wants you. Now I see what everyone else sees." I gently pushed Pia away. "Pia, staying with me because your mom said so, or your sister wants me, it's not a good enough reason. I'm not a toy you want just because your sister thinks I have some value." Pia shook her head. "No, Ron. Lucy made me see what's right in front of me. What you do, for me, for the family, it's what a real husband does out of love for his wife. Actions all the time. Not—" Pia gestured to the envelope on the bed. Pretty words and promises on paper from afar. "Pia, gratitude is good for pets, but it's not the foundation for a strong marriage," I told her. "When you agreed to help me, it was just gratitude. Now it's love," Pia said. "Of course, Pia. Since when?" I wasn't sure if Lucy hadn't told Pia about Mr. Wonderful at home, and I was the consolation prize. Pia sat back on the bed. "Ron, now I know I started loving you last year. I don't care if a letter comes." Pia touched the envelope. "When I sometimes don't respond to letters or even feel awkward, I realize it's because of you. I look for time to spend together. Even all the time I think about how to postpone the divorce. I know we don't have as much money as others, but we have each other. I'll do everything I can to make you happy." Damn, Pia seemed sincere. Time to make a decision. I had to choose a path. I kissed Pia hard. Then Pia pulled me down on the bed and started pulling down my pants. "Now, Ron, I'm going to give you what you should have gotten a long time ago," Pia whispered in my ear. After we were enveloped in the aftertaste, Pia asked me if I could get her something cold to drink. I was standing in front of the refrigerator with the door open, trying not to let the cold air freeze me, when I heard the door to the kitchen open. I turned around with an open can of soda in each hand, naked as a jaybird, to be greeted by Lucy, my mom, and a bunch of students from Lucy's study group. It's hard to cover yourself with a can of Coca-Cola. I took a short sip of soda, then asked the assembled women's group, "How'd the test go? Can I get any of you guys a soda?" A University of Texas study found that marriages based on romantic relationships are doomed to fail because partners have unreasonable expectations of each other and the relationship has little room for improvement. This is largely what explains the 50% divorce rate in America. I think because Pia and I had nowhere to go but up, we had a better chance than most. Next month, we'll have been married 21 years. Pia has slowed down with the arrival of our 4 beautiful children. I think Pia now sleeps 5 hours a night. In between giving birth, Pia managed to fulfill her RN, registered nurse per board requirements, and pass her exams. She has been a charge nurse at the local hospital for several years now, and is terrified of young and old doctors who go overboard. The whole family was at the ceremony downtown when Pia finally became a U.S. citizen. Her smile still lights up the room, and with each passing day, I love Pia more and more. I told Pia about my trust fund, but it didn't change our lifestyle. When our family grew, Pia bought Mr. Wilson's house next door and moved my mom there. The kids love having Grandma in the neighborhood, and so do we. Lucy was constantly being hit on when she started working, but she rarely went out. Frequent trips to McDonald's led to her meeting, dating, and later marrying the manager. He was the most ordinary average person, another faceless, mediocre, nice guy. When they first filed their tax returns after they were married, Lucy discovered that he wasn't just a McDonald's manager, but the sole owner of a number of McDonald's franchises. With 3 children, they will have been married for 17 years this summer. Sometimes, it's good to be ordinary.